We have brought back for you, great King of Denmark, all these trophies of our victory. They were heavy indeed to carry, but our heart song made light of the burden. I will not pretend to you it was easy, my lord. It was a close-run thing, this fight under water, a fight I very nearly lost before it had begun. Runting, fine weapon though it is, was useless against this she-wolf of the deep. But God was with me, and I thank only him for my victory. I snatched up another sword, a giant of a weapon, hanging there in the wall, and with it I avenged all the murder and misery inflicted on you by this family of fiends. First the monster's head I severed, and this grisly reminder is still lying there from that early conflict. Your enemies are dead. You have your peace back, so all of you may now sleep safely in Heorot. We have seen the last of them, my lord king. Everyone here can rest assured of that, I promise you. Then Beowulf presented to the silver-haired king the golden hilt, all that remained of the giant's sword that had done such damage in the fight. So the hilt belonged fittingly to Hrothgar, the best and wisest of kings. He spoke now to the silent hall. Beowulf, my friend and best of men, your name and your nobility will resound throughout the world, even in the farthest corners. I marvel not only at your strength, but at the wisdom of one so young. Stay as generous and peaceable as you are, Beowulf. Do not become as other heroes have before you, so tuned to battle that a thirst for blood consumes you. I tell you this because I am old in years, and I know that all men, however noble and fine, are frail, and our lives are finite. At the height of our powers, when triumph succeeds triumph, we cannot imagine an end to our success. Pride grows within us, despite ourselves. We can easily forget that our powers are God-given, and should be used only in his service. Know, beloved Beowulf, that even with you the end must come. Flesh and strength will fail. You are now in the high noon of your strength, but waiting for you, and not so far away as sickness maybe, or a slashing sword, burning fire or drowning wave, the stab of a dagger, or just old age. Death awaits us all. I thank God in his great mercy my own death has been postponed long enough for me to enjoy this moment, the end of Grendel and his kind, to gaze in triumph at his gory head. So, remembering all this, let us rejoice and feast together tonight, and in the morning I shall give you all your promised treasure. But they did not feast long that night, for Hrothgar the old king was tired and wished to rest. No feast can continue without its host, and the truth was that the Geatish prince was ready for his bed too. He had earned his rest that night, I think. Battle-weary, the hero and his thanes slept deeply until the black raven in the tree outside raucously greeted the coming of the new day. Sunlight chased away the shadows as the prince and his companions made ready to leave. Now the fight was done, they wanted to be home, every warrior among them. They had been away long enough. Before he left, Beowulf returned runting to Unferth, the king's herald, and thanked him for the loan of it, without ever finding fault with the blade that had failed him. Beowulf was like this, fierce in battle but generous and thoughtful in spirit. He did not want to hurt Unferth's feelings. Now dressed in their armour and prepared for the journey home, Beowulf and his warriors went to Hrothgar to say their last farewells. The Geatish hero spoke first. You will understand, great Hrothgar, how we return to Hugh to once again our home and hearth. You have looked after us royally. We shall not forget your kindness. Know also, Lord Hrothgar, that I shall always be ready to come to your aid again if you should ever need me. If I hear you are threatened by your neighbours or that any intend you harm, I shall come back with 1,000 warriors to help you. Hugh, my lord, my king, lord of the Geats, would, I know, always want me to be at your side, shoulder to shoulder and defending you against your enemies, along with a forest of sharpened Geatish spears, if ever you should need us. Saddened at this parting, Hrothgar, wise in his great age, spoke to Beowulf, knowing that it was unlikely he would ever set eyes on his dear friend again. Tears filled his eyes as he embraced the Geatish hero for the last time. He spoke to him as a father to his favourite son. I have never known a man at the same time so young and so wise. In you strength and wisdom are perfectly matched. How the Lord in heaven has blessed you. If any ask me, I shall say this. Should, God forbid, the Geats lose their renowned king through sword or sickness, they could not want for a better prince than you to take his place and rule over the kingdom. In coming here to help us, you have brought two peoples close together. By your courage you have banished any lingering ancient rivalries between Dane and Geat. So long as I am king, our ships will cross the seas between us, filled not with spears, but only with gifts of friendship and love. We shall from now on stand always fast together, sea Geats and spear Danes, firm against our enemies." So Beowulf left, carrying with him 12 new treasures, those promised parting gifts from the king to the Geatish hero, that dear man, friend forever of the Danish king and his people. Gold-decked and resplendent with rings he left them, and not a Dane who watched him go believed the reward was any more than he deserved. Now they came again to the seashore, sorrowing in their loss of Hansio, their dead war companion, and at the same time rejoicing in all that had been achieved, and also in Hrothgar's generosity towards them. The coastguard, who had greeted them days before, saw them coming again, these young warrior heroes in their war shirts and glittering helmets. He rode to greet them, guiding them to the waiting sea-boat he had guarded so carefully for them. Once the ship was loaded with horses and armour and Hrothgar's hoard of gifts, Beowulf gave the coastguard a gift, a gold-hilted sword. It was a gift I am sure the man treasured forever. Then a mist rose high over the deck. The slack sail hoisted was soon wind-filled and taut, and the ship's timbers felt again the sea surge. Out over the waves the ship danced, rejoicing to feel again the foam at its throat. Like the warriors, that sea-boat longed to be home, rode the ocean, surf-skimmed the waves until they saw at last the welcome cliffs and headlands of home, a coast they knew and loved. A favourable breeze brought them over the shallows and beached them safely on shore. Their coming had not gone unnoticed in those homeland cliffs. Geatish coastguards had long been watching for their return, anxiously awaiting their beloved heroes. They were there on the beach helping to moor the boat, to hold it fast so that no sea surge could harm this boat of heroes. They were there to help unload the heroes' golden hoard, marvelling at the amount of it, at the richness of it. They did not have far to carry it, for Hugelac, the Geatish king, lived with his warband close by the sea wall itself. News of their coming, of the hoard they carried, raced ahead of them to Hugelac himself, brave king of all the Geats. Beowulf, his nephew and greatest champion, his hearth companion, had survived his perilous quest and was returning home unscathed. By order of Hugelac, the mead hall was cleared at once and prepared for Beowulf and those honoured Geatish heroes. As he saw Beowulf and his warriors striding into the hall, Hugelac could scarcely contain his burning curiosity to hear all about their adventures in Denmark and their miraculous return. After all the greetings were done, there was never such a warmth of welcome, and the mead cup had been offered around to each and every one of these heroes. The two noble kinsmen, Hugelac and Beowulf, sat down face to face, the one eager to know, the other eager to tell. Hugelac leaned forward, longing to hear. "Tell us now, beloved brave Beowulf, how you survived this battle in distant Heorot. I warned you, did I not, of the dangers that lay ahead of you in Denmark? Do not go, dear friend, I said, and face that murderous monster Grendel. Those were my words, if I remember. Yet you did not listen to my advice. You were determined to help Hrothgar, a friend in need, and I confess now I much admired you for it. Tell me now all that happened. Live it for us again, so we may know all you have done whilst you were gone." So Beowulf told his story to his king, of how the Geats had been so royally welcomed to Heorot, that great mead hall, of Grendel's coming by night, how Hansio had been snatched up half asleep and ground to death in Grendel's jaws. "I grappled with this beast bare-handed, my lord Hugelac," said Beowulf, grasped his arm and would not let him go. When he tore himself away, still I held his severed arm. Perhaps he thought he had escaped, but it was his death wound, his life's blood draining out of him deep in his watery lair. So that monster died, and so I avenged all the hurt he had done to Hrothgar and the Danes, and generously that king rewarded me, just as he had promised, with a treasure hoard of gold, rich and finely worked. And at Heorot all of us, Danish thanes and Geatish warriors, rejoiced. But we rejoiced too soon, for out of the night came Grendel's vengeful mother, a fiend filled with fury. She struck down the first she saw. Ashira, he was called, most beloved counsellor and dearest hearth companion to Hrothgar, the old king. So I went after her. Seeking her lair, I plunged into the whirlpool of sea serpents and found her there, this gruesome guardian of the deep. Hand to hand we fought. I was as near to death then as I have ever been, saved only by God and by a giant's sword. With this I hewed off both their hideous heads, made an end to that family of monsters, slew the last of Satan's children, and brought peace again to Hrothgar and the Danish people. For all this the fair and generous king presented us with more treasures still, all of which, brave king, I have carried back for you, who are my own family." Then Beowulf had them bring in all the treasures he had received from Hrothgar, a boar's head standard, helmet and war shirt and sword, all of which had belonged to Hrothgar's own brother. No gift could have been more precious than all this garb of war, none more kindly meant. 4 high-stepping horses were then led in, burnished bay they were and matching as apples. All these and more Beowulf gave that day to his lord. Surely there was never a more generous heart than this. To Hugelac's queen he presented the marvellous ancient collar he had been given by Hrothgar, 3 prancing horses also, and fine saddles too. Wearing this jewel the queen shone in beauty as never before. For all these great gifts, and to honour this great champion, Hugelac laid in Beowulf's lap the finest sword and the royal treasure. Richly wrought in gold it was, magnificent in every detail. But that was not all. The king bestowed on him there and then a huge estate and a fine hall too, fit for such a hero who had brought through his brave deeds such honour and such riches to the land of the Geats. All seemed then peaceful and set fair for Hugelac and the Geats, but the fate of kings and their people, even of great heroes, is forever fickle and fraught with danger.